that members of the party, people are actually beginning to break ranks with the ANC, something that would have been unheard of years ago. People are actually breaking ranks, and some of the people breaking ranks are very prominent leaders of the party, stalwarts of the party, and even second generation, like children of some of the stalwarts, former stalwarts of the ANC. They are breaking away and forming various alliances, and the whole thing is still in motion. The other day I was hearing about a group, I think it's Soka, or I can't remember, Boka, I can't remember. And I was listening to their leader, at least on the sound of it. Sounded very impressive. And you can see that the youth in South Africa are beginning to move away from the way, business as usual. They are actually beginning to question things, expect things, and even at the local level elections, ANC started losing seats in places where they had the dominance, or what they have always held. So that wind of change that is blowing through South Africa, even the election hasn't been held, but already people are predicting that the ANC is likely, in fact very likely, to lose its majority in parliament. And when we talk about majority in parliament, ANC holds has a large sway in parliament, But now the Democratic Alliance, EFF, and other smaller parties are coming up. And the youth are also, looking up to some of these groupings and some of these new leaders emerging. So it tells you that, yes, politics as usual in Africa is changing. There's a certain level of awareness, especially in the youth. They listen to political commentators, they do their own analysis, they watch what is going on the economic and political scene. So politics is changing. It's not going to be the way it is all along. So I think that, yes, it is true, this coming election is going to be a landmark election. And even the reaction of the ANC itself. Even former President Jacob Zuma is even saying that he's forming his own party. And that one is bringing its own controversies, which is also going to further weaken the African National Congress. And these are lessons for the rest of Africa, including Ghana, that you cannot take your electorate for granted. Don't think that an area of Ghana is your World Bank or IMF or whatever. No, the people are discerning. The people will decide for themselves. The people listen to news every day. They listen to the discussions. They read the newspapers. They know what is happening. So I think the developments in South Africa are a lesson for all the African leaders. All leaders, they should be thinking seriously and begin to appreciate that, look, you cannot govern and forget about, you have to be conscious of the responsiveness of your electorate. You don't just do things the way you think things should be done. So
thank you very
that's
much.
my view.
Right. Honorable Minister.
So let me say good morning to you, Comrade Kwesi Pratt, and my friend Philip London, and to our cherished viewers across the African continent. Indeed, the South Africa is preparing for a general election. Like you read, South Africa's democratic experiment is modeled on the British system, except that they have a president, not a prime minister. Okay, so the president need not be a member of parliament, and the parties in parliament, and most likely the majority party in parliament, determines who becomes the president, and so the president can be removed. The president has no security of tenure in South Africa. If he, like Jacob Zuma was removed, if he finds himself falling out with the party will remove and change the president. And so in South Africa, African National Congress, fought the war of emancipation For a very long time, many people were killed, many people sacrificed their lives to ensure that the racist regime in South Africa, the apartheid regime in South Africa, was brought to an end. The people of South Africa, almost all the black people in South Africa, clearly identified with the African National Congress. A few people did not, but majority of the people identify with the National African Congress. I mean, the white minority rule in South Africa knew that if they granted universal adult suffrage to South Africans, there was no way they could come to power. And so that was why they kept postponing the granting of universal adult suffrage to the entire black population. I mean, you remember, let's say, Mandela's famous speech, where he said he had lived in a white-dominated rule, under white-dominated rule. He had lived under black-dominated rule. He thinks that, he appreciates the ideals of democracy, and he will fight against black domination, just like he will fight against white domination. Clearly, it was to send a signal that they were not sacking the whites from South Africa. I mean, that's why it is a rainbow country, but that we need democracy. The people have to have a say in who becomes their leader. Now, African National Congress has been in power for close to 30-something years since the apartheid regime was dismantled. So, a combination of issues. Fatigue. I mean, people were born, they have now occupying very important positions in South Africa. They know of no other government except the African National Congress. So there's fatigue. Now, secondly, there is unfulfilled promises. I mean, majority of the black people in South Africa were languishing in poverty. They were living in shacks. I mean, Mandela's promise to build them homes have not materialized. Their fortunes have not improved. Most of them are still languishing in poverty. That's why there's crime and violence in South Africa. And so the people are beginning to question themselves as to what good has the African National Congress done to the people of South Africa? Have they actually delivered on what they promised the people of South Africa? Yes, they've gotten democracy, but have they delivered? There's corruption. Corruption at the highest level. I mean, and that was even epitomized in the trial of Jacob Zuma. So I mean, if the people have elected and entrusted you with their mandate to rule the country, and you decide to privatize that mandate and to enrich yourself, the people will be dissatisfied. I mean, so there is little doubt. And then, because the dissatisfaction has manifested itself in many people, many other people who were originally associated with the party, breaking away from the party. And EFF is a classical example. Okay, the gentleman, what's his name? Malema. Yes, you know, Malema was a key feature of the African National. Yes, he was a youth leader. Today, he's an avid opponent of the ANC. You know, and then Jacob Zuma himself, having been ousted from power and sent to jail and pardoned because of ill health, has formed his own party and to contest the elections. I mean, the African National Congress decided to test the eligibility of Jacob Zuma to contest elections. The court upheld his right to contest in the elections. The blacks, the white, what was the name of is that the Liberal Party of South Africa? The Democratic Alliance is now attracting black people into their fold. In fact, at the latest, the last check I had, a black man was their leader. And so clearly, these people are beginning to change and to view the African National Congress not as an ally, but just as a political party. And they are queuing up to contest the dominance of the African National Congress in the South African elections. Now, matters have come to a head. Yesterday, I was listening to the news on South Africa, and then the Ramaphosa has introduced the national health insurance bill in Parliament, and they are opposing it. People are opposing it and reading into it and saying that, look, they are doing exactly what they are doing because of the waning popularity of the African National Congress. They want to be able to carry along with them the majority of the people who are poor, and because they want to offer health insurance to them, and also prescribe a standard health regime for all people. And they are queuing up to go to court if the law is passed to challenge the constitutionality of the court. And they are not challenging the constitutionality based on the fact that a single standard has been provided for them to assess health, but they are challenging it because they think that it's political maneuvering by the African National Congress. African National Congress is doing everything in their power. If you look at how they treated, how they challenged the eligibility of Jacob Zuma, add the national health insurance, the fact that EFF is gaining grounds in South Africa, the fact that the Democratic Alliance has elected a black leader, they're seeing that their popularity is waning. Above all that is the fatigue. The people do not just see anything new about the African National Congress. The African National Congress has become like an albatross hanging on the necks of the South Africans. Now they have taken the black support for granted. And I like what you have said. Even in our country, you remember a Minister of State said that for the Ashanti region, they just need t-shirts to vote for the MPP. That is an example of taking support of the people for granted. And I will not be surprised this year if the support for the MPP in the Ashanti region wanes. Because you can't treat a people like that. The people give you support, the people rally behind you because they think that when you come into power, you will affect the way of their lives in a positive manner, and that you will deliver the goodies of governance to them. They will appreciate the rewards of their support to the party, only for you to turn around and say, oh, where Ashadia, or what is it? No, it's our birthright. I mean, we in the MPPs, Ashanti region is our birthright. And so, I mean, whether we do anything or not, they will vote for us. The people of South Africa, the blacks of South Africa, want to teach the ANC a lesson. Just like the people of Kumasi are queuing to teach or waiting to teach the MPP a lesson. And no party. That's why you can't forget about Nkrumah in all distance. You can't forget about Nkrumah. I mean, the Matimihu emerged from the Ashanti region. The National Liberation Party was from the Ashanti region. Akoto movement was from Akoto. The chief linguist of the Ashanti. They simply did not. I mean, the master will tell you, they simply did not tolerate CPP in the Ashanti region. I mean, if you were declared a CPP, I mean, a fatwa was declared on you, and you had to pack bag and baggage and leave Ashanti region. But with all that, Nkrumah never neglected the development of the Ashanti region, because he understood that governance is about the country and not about the people, or people's support for a party or otherwise. This is not what we are seeing in Ghana today. I mean, the president can even say, well, I wouldn't have come to the Volta region because you don't vote for me. And when there's a deluge in the Mape area, he says, well, I'm coming because, but you don't, I mean, and there's some places he says, you are not getting development because you voted out my member of parliament. That's not about governance. Now, it's about time that we, the people of this country, and the Constitution says that we, the people of the country, show and teach political parties lessons in leadership. That when you are made a leader, You have made a leader for a whole country and not a section of the country. And that is what the African National Congress is confronted with. The blacks clearly are not excited.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Let me come to Comrade Pratt.
Well, the South African elections is beginning to look exceedingly interesting. And what is manifesting today is the betrayal of the South African people through the negotiated settlement. As a matter of fact, the negotiations that Nelson Mandela led to a situation where the political and economic program that had been adopted by the trade unions, by the Communist Party, and by the ANC had to be abandoned. That's where the problem began. The Freedom Charter was abandoned in order to gain political rights for the South African people. So at the end of the day, what has happened is that the South African people have a right to vote. They don't have rights to land. And their participation in the economy is at the peripheral level. So the biggest betrayal, I mean, all over the world, people talk about Mandela in terms which are sometimes surprising. We have to bear in mind that the real struggle for the liberation of South Africa was actually led by Winnie Mandela.
Yeah.
Okay? Nelson Mandela played his part. He joined the armed struggle, got in prison for 27 years or thereabout. But on the ground, the real leader of the struggle was Winnie. Okay. Nelson Mandela became a symbol of the struggle because of the long years he spent in prison. And the pro-apartheid forces and apartheid forces made it their duty to eliminate Winnie or to distance Winnie from the center of power in order to allow this useless compromise, to take place. And that is why Winnie was specifically targeted. All kinds of allegations were made against her, including murder and so on. They harassed her. Nelson Mandela and her had to divorce, and so in order to keep her away from power. Okay. Now, it didn't just end there. Radical elements who were going to push the agenda, the original agenda, were also assassinated, like Chris Hani, in order to create this charade. Now, the ANC is paying a very huge price. Huge price for these compromises. And as is indicated in all the reports, there is now substantial doubt as to whether the ANC can manage to win the elections due in about a week. Substantial doubt. Okay. Already, in some of the provinces, the ANC has been compelled to enter into alliance with the DA as the Democratic Alliance, which used to be white-led. Okay? And that's worrying. Now, if you look at the ANC, its foreign policy is excellent. The ANC has an excellent foreign policy. Pro-Africa, Pan-Africanist, internationalist, and so on, foreign policy. But the domestic policy is in shambles. To the extent that landless people in South Africa have been compelled to form a movement. In fact, you now have the shack dwellers movement in South Africa with a membership of over 1 million. Okay? And the shack dwellers association has actually declared that its members should not support the ANC. It's a, grassroots organization. They've declared their support for Malema and so on. So, for those of us who are outside South Africa, who are not victims of the internal policies of South Africa, we are worried. We are worried because there could be a substantial shift in the foreign policy of South Africa. I mean, if you are from the Saudi Arab Democratic Republic, you ought to be worried about what elections, the election results would be. Cuba ought to worry. Palestine, up to worry and so on. But this is where the unnecessary compromise has brought us. It is clear that Malema's force cannot win the election. It cannot, under any circumstance, win the election. But they are likely to take substantial votes away from the ANC. Now, the speculation is that whatever force would emerge, as winner of the election, has to engage in all kinds of alliances. Now, if ANC and ye economic freedom fighters, for example, were to form an alliance, what compromises would they make? What would be the demands of Malema and his people? If they were to enter into an alliance with the DA, what compromises would they make? What would be the demands? The demands that the DA will put up and so on. So I think that we are in a very chaotic situation in South Africa. I'm deeply worried about possible outcomes. COSATU is no longer the COSATU that used to be. I mean, COSATU itself has expelled some unions, including the Metal Workers Union of South Africa, NUMSA, and COSATU is not what it used to be. You understand? So South Africa is in turmoil. I do hope that they are not reduced to the level that Ghana has been reduced to, or that African countries have been reduced to after they gained independence. I mean, if you go to Angola, for example, you'll be surprised that UNITA, that we all openly despise, UNITA, which was considered as the evil, today is making strides in Angolan politics because of the failure of the MPLA. You understand? And I do hope that South Africa will manage to come out of these elections very strong. I mean, who could have believed after Sharpeville massacre that when the ANC took power, South African police forces would open fire on workers who are demonstrating? I mean, the scenes of the Marikana massacre look like the Soweto massacre, and I was wondering, where is the difference? But hey, this is where we are. The progressive and revolutionary forces in Africa have a lot of work to do. They have a real serious work to do.
All right, thank you very much, Comrade Pratt. Now, we'll move away from that and proceed to our next story. But once again, I'll implore you to be a part of the conversation. Let me know what you think about the topics that we are discussing this morning. Let me run you through them. First, we went to South Africa, where we brought you conversations in relation to the upcoming election. Also to other stories, collapse of GEHOC, other state enterprises worrying. This coming from former President John Dramani Mahama, and this story has been captured in the Inside newspaper. Stop sharing our lands like cake. Ghana chief warns government officials. Imani peddles falsehood. This is coming from the Electoral Commission of Ghana, and this story has been captured by the Daily Guide newspaper. So we'll proceed to our next one. I see that some of you are sending in messages already. I'll read them in the course of the conversation, but let's get into our next topic for conversation, where former President John Dramani Mahama has expressed worry over the collapse of some Ghanaian industries, including GEHOC. Let me read an excerpt, a brief excerpt of the story as captured by today's edition of the Insight newspaper. Former President John Mahama has said the collapse of GEHOC and other state-owned enterprises under the current government is deeply disturbing and unfortunate. At the inauguration of the National Democratic Congress Aldershot branch of the UK and Ireland chapter, former President Mahama, who delivered a passionate speech on the issue, emphasized the crucial importance of winning the upcoming election for the revival of these enterprises and general betterment of Ghana. Addressing the audience, the NDC flag bearer for the 2024 elections underscored the urgent need for change, citing widespread deterioration across various sectors in Ghana, including healthcare and education. Further lamenting the decline of state-owned enterprises, Mr. Mahama pointed out stark examples of once profitable entities now struggling to survive. Mr. Mahama highlighted the drastic decline in the performance of the produce buying company, which went from purchasing 30% of Ghana's cocoa exports in the 2016-17 crop year to a current state of purchasing none. He also noted the dire financial situation at PBC, with employees going unpaid for 10 months and banks repossessing the company's properties due to unpaid credits. It goes on and on and on. But Honorable Yunusa Hussaini would begin the conversation on this topic for us.
Well, the situation confronting us in Ghana is so dire that no one can fail to recognize that we have sunk to the lowest of the low. Indeed, Ghana is bankrupt. It's no longer a favorite investment destination. Our city is falling like dry leaves in the harmattan. The employees are not being paid, and even if they are paid, their pay cannot take them home because the inflation has eaten up the real value, the purchasing power parity of their money as compared to previous years. Now, economists will tell you simply that when the purchasing power of a people is diminished, the economic slows down because they no longer have the resources to engage in training or buying things which the industry produces. Now, government itself is not even able to resource ailing state industries, let alone give quantitative easing, that is support, financial support to industries to be able to continue to produce and also maintain the employment levels in their private companies. And so many things are clearly getting wrong in this country. I mean, you have said, and it is true, that PBC, Produce Buying Company, which was carved out of cocoa board, and to concentrate on the purchasing of cocoa beans, has failed woefully. I mean, when PBC was formed as a company to compete with the private sector in the purchase of cocoa beans, they had 30% of the market share. Today, they have virtually nothing. 0% of the market share. Because they can't even raise money to buy cocoa, sell to the cocoa marketing company, and then make profit to pay their workers. So their workers have remained unpaid for close to a year today. One will ask what then becomes the usefulness of the Produce Buying Company. Jihawk, the Shele Ayete's Jihawk. Once upon a time, there was the pride of the place, Jihawk. I mean, if you had Jihawk when we were in school, secondary school, everybody thought that when you complete school and go to the university and come out, at least you get Jihawk to work in at art, you're done. Today, people don't want to go there. It's a shell of itself under this government, collapsed under this government. I mean, I can go on and go and go on. I mean, the private sector, Calgary has moved away from Ghana, has set up a home in Cote d'Ivoire. Cote d'Ivoire, which a few years ago was ravaged by civil war, is now home to many of the companies which were previously operating in Ghana, because they have managed to establish a level of stability in their country, and their country is growing. Among the West African region, Cote d'Ivoire is performing wonderfully well. I mean, we are told that our station has deteriorated precisely because of a combination of two factors, the COVID and the Ukraine-Russia war. As if to say that Cote d'Ivoire was living on an island of its own, and that these wars or these developments did not affect it. It's performing wonderfully well. That is leadership. Is it you? I mean, you said it last week. It's about leadership. It's about leadership. It's the bottom line is the leadership. And so, you said Carberry. There are many other companies. Societe Generale. has announced that it's closing shop in Ghana. And so all the people who were working there will have to find places to work. It's not looking for a strategic buyer to take up its interest in that bank. So we are in deep shit. We are in deep trouble. And that is the legacy that Nana Akufo-Addo wants somebody to protect. The legacy of a collapsed economy. And that was what the former president was reflecting on, was talking about, to get our people to understand the recess that we are in, the kind of hole that we are in, and how it will take leadership to be able to reset this country on the path of prosperity. I mean, the corruption. I mean, it's sometimes nauseating that you can hear about a minister of state keeping huge sums of money in a room, and now all attempts by officialdom is to justify and exonerate a minister of state from keeping such huge amounts of money in her room. You hear, and there are funny stories about money being taken from the polytank. Funny stories. A secretary to the secretary to the president losing money to armed robbery. Secretary, huge amounts of money. I mean, so you ask yourself, how did we get to where we are? We got to where we are because so many years ago, many people, including Comrade Pratt, sold to us the incorruptible nature of the president. They sold to us a fiction. They said he had leadership qualities. They said he was an already made man. They said he didn't need money. Ashanti even talked about that when he paid him the first visit. Ashanti told him, no, where you have reached, it's not about money. It's about leaving a legacy. The exaltations entered one ear and left through the other ear. And today, many people, last week I said it, even though there were some people in the MPP who didn't believe in the leadership qualities of Nana Akufo-Addo, the prospects of winning power made them rally behind him to get him to lead the party. Clear example is Alan Chiramante. Clear example. He didn't win Nana Akufo-Addo in 2008, 2007. He didn't win the Congress. He led, but he didn't win. But Alan Chiramante, because of the stories of Nana Akufo-Addo sold to us, they surrounded his right to contest in the runoff to Nana Akufo-Addo. And that got him to where he is. And then again, the fiction, the fake. And he said, well, this honor done me will never be forgotten. And after I have done my 2 terms, if I ever do my 2 terms, you will succeed me. What does it turn out to be? And that fake is still being foisted on us. You remember 2 days ago what the Chief Justice said about Nana Akufo-Addo? She made a political speech in which he said Nana Akufo-Addo was the most distinguished lawyer in this country. How can a person who has no degree in law be the most distinguished person in legal practice in this country? He has no degree in law. He was called to the Lincoln's Inn with no degree in law. Apprentice 10 engineer. So you see, and this is what is being foisted on us. I mean, I still remember the celebrated case of Taylor, Tufo and Attorney General, which made Nana Akufo-Addo the most celebrated person, according in the eyes of the Chief Justice. And I know the people who did the research for him to come and argue in court. The people who wrote out the the submissions for him. But today, the fake, the fiction is being perpetuated to create the impression that this man is a president that we will never get. But, well, the facts on the ground do not attest to that. The facts on the ground show that we are bankrupt. The fact on the ground is that inflation is 23-24%. The fact of the ground on the ground is that GDP, where debt to the GDP ratio is about 104%. The facts on the ground is that in collaboration with the governor of the Bank of Ghana and the former minister of finance, the government of the governor of the Bank of Ghana printed a lot of money and pushed 850,000 people into poverty. Today, we have at the Bank of Ghana somebody who has been put there, the imperialist powers, put there to ensure that the governor Addison doesn't do what he did again. And he's still sitting there happy that your colleague is now being put as a supervisor over the governor of the Bank of Ghana has a supervisor. This is an independent country under Nana Akufo-Addo. And even when Kamala Harris came, he offered another solution to our problem. Said if we needed somebody to help us manage our economic finances and economic development plans and whatnot, the United States was prepared to give us a consultant, somebody, an expert. Can you imagine? And this is the country in which we are. This is the country. And John Dramani Mahama is bemoaning that. I think that going forward, all of us should resolve that never again should we be brought into a situation where all of us will be bemoaning our state of affairs. That calls for an invidious responsibility to go out on the 7th of December and vote out those who have brought this precarious situation onto us in this country.
Thank you very much, Honorable James Afuseni. Let me come to Mr. Philip London.
Well, thank you. We're talking about York Distillery. And then we came to the precarious situation on the ground there. The facts on the ground, as indicated by my brother, I mean, those are the facts on the ground. There's no question about them. They are facts undisputable. But I don't want to go into, I'm not going to defend another or anything like that, but I don't know if anybody wrote some submissions for me, I could go to court and present them in front of a judge. So if Nanato was able to do that, then maybe. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't go to that realm. Anyway, now talking about Gihok Distillery. There used to be a gentleman called Kwame Moses. Mr. Moses was the managing director of Gihok. Those were the days of Gihok. And one thing that made Mr. Moses stand out was that anytime you saw Mr. Moses, he would let you know that everything about him, apart from the car he was driving, was Gihok. Anything, he drank only Gihok produce. He wore only Gihok produce. Whether it was apparel or footwear or whatever. Anything, all the food he ate was Gihok. Everything, you know. And a lot of people took pride in Gihok. That was Gihok. Ghana Industrial Holding Corporation. And it was spread over the whole country. Over the years, we have seen piece by piece by piece, Gihok being dismantled and sold off to cronies under all kinds of situations. And you know, today when we talk about Gihok, we tend to only refer to the last surviving piece of Gihok, which is the distillery. And going by the recent press reports on Gihok, we wonder how much life is left in that company. How much life is left? A few years ago, Gihok rebranded itself, came up with new products. Oh, we thought it was, very exciting. Started doing all kinds of things. Now we are hearing all kinds of problems. Accounts being garnished, workers on demonstration, lockouts. It's a very, very, very disturbing situation. And I find the Gihok situation as a microcosm of what has happened to a lot of industries. Yes, if you ask those in charge, they'll tell you, those are the usual examples of Russia and Ukraine. Besides all the other examples. But in the same economy, we have Kasapreko doing very well, expanding. Not just its production level and its market share in our local economy, but it's extending. Kasapreko is about the first, I won't say the first, but one prominent company that is actualizing the African Continental Free Trade concept, where we look to see our industries expand to the extent that they will be feeding the general African continent. Kasapreko sends its product all the way to Southern Africa. As for West Africa, they are so well known. But they are going to Southern Africa and East Africa. This is what we expect. And the way things are going, it's like one step forward, two steps back. Yes, we made some progress in the recent past. But look at the terrible deterioration of the cedi recently. Over the last few years. Terrible, unprecedented depreciation of the cedi. Everybody is up in arms. Agbogblosi market, my information is that the market women are complaining about the dollar and the CFA. Because the tomatoes are coming from Burkina Faso. They need to change money to go and buy tomatoes. Tomatoes which we otherwise should have been producing in Ghana. Tomatoes which the Burkinabes came to Ghana to come and learn how to cultivate and went back to their arid country and are now exporting to us. This is an indictment on Ghana. It's an indictment, and it will take strong, committed, focused, disciplined, and decisive leadership to reverse this situation. That is why we have to have a change. A change, we have to have a change in this country to move things in a proper direction. No more politicking, whereby we tell each other MPP and DC. No, we've gone past that. We have to move this country. Look, go around the world, you find Ghanaians in top positions, even in the sub-region. Top positions. But let political parties come. Sometimes and even my own former party, some of the kind of people will be appointed. I mean, and it is we have to move. You have people in this country who are shining examples. People who had, and who will not be afraid to admit it, had very little formal education. But because of their own focus and drive, personal discipline, they've been able to achieve what they've achieved. This is the kind of situation we should have in this country. This is the kind of situation we should have in this country. And it is people like this we should be helping to help us all of us move forward as a country. It is too bad because look, it is terrible to want to predict that Gihok is going to go down the same way that many of the other all its other companies, sister companies went down. Terrible. Look at the infrastructure. Look at the siting of the factory. Look all over the country, all over. Today we talk about blue skies. In the days when Nsawam Cannery was producing, they were exporting to Europe and the shops in Europe, in London. They couldn't. When Nsawam Cannery products arrive, they are scattered. Scattered. What did they do? They came down from Europe, studied from us, and tried to better and beat us. And we allowed ourselves to be beaten. The ground that was producing the same pineapples is still here. The people who were working in the factories are still in Ghana. They are still Ghanaians. So what is the difference? We need strong and decisive leadership who know what they are about to get this country to move forward. The way things have gone, we cannot continue to go down this road. Because like I'm saying, it's simply a matter of time. By the time another government comes, if we don't have the right kind of leadership, Gihok will also go down the drain. And we cannot allow that to happen. We have sat down, we complain. Yes, 1 minute we talk about we are destroying. We talked about PBC and, who could have imagined that PBC will be where it is today? Who could have imagined? Who could have imagined that the Ghana Cocoa Board will be where it is today? How can Cocoa Board, increase its staff numbers by, almost double? Almost double. When our cocoa production levels are dropping. How does this make sense? How does this make sense to anybody? How can Cocoa Board be just employing people? Meanwhile, the cocoa we are exporting is dropping. The volumes we are exporting is dropping. The buyers of our cocoa are already warning us that, look, some of your products that are coming are showing signs of some contaminants. In the light of all these things, you are still employing more people. We are going for syndicated loans. We cannot, it's not even able to cover what we thought we were going to buy. And we have deficits. We are simply, the level of mismanagement is unprecedented. It's unprecedented. It's not that we don't know what to do. We've done it before. Under the same party in government before was able to manage all these situations better. So what is wrong? It's not the leadership. It's the leadership. Full stop. Put the right people there. Put the right policies. Do the right thing. Leadership by example. Proper discipline. We will achieve what we want to achieve. The Ghanaians are there to do the job. But if you are still in your office, tomorrow they bring somebody else to come and do virtually the same job. What is your enthusiasm to do the work? It affects the industry. These are the things that have collapsed our industries. And instead of us learning from our lessons and improving and getting things to be better, we are making the same mistakes and making them even worse now. We have to depart from the way things are going. We have to definitely depart. Because I'm telling you, my brother, the Nigerians are not sleeping. South Africa, upon all their problems, they are not sleeping. Their industries are gearing up. All these companies, Kenya, Senegal, Togo, they see the potential that African Continental Free Trade offers to them. So if we are going to sit down and we are not going to do the right thing and get our industries to be running, to help our... Today, look at... Industries are folding up. Industries are folding up in Ghana. Why should that happen? We'll take one step forward or 2 steps forward, then we want to take 3 steps back. Very soon, the automobile industries, factories that we have been able to manage and attract to come and establish in Ghana, they too will wake up one morning and say, my friend, we can't cope with your environment. We are going. This cannot be allowed to happen. We cannot allow this type of situation to continue. So definitely we need proper leadership, and that's why the movement for change is focused on. we have to change things and get things to move properly to save our industries and provide jobs for the young people and people of this country.
Right, thank you very much. I'll read a few messages before I come to Comrade Kwesi Pratt Jr. This one here says, we're in Africa Month, which very soon is Africa Day, but there is no any awareness for our youth to know what it's about. Why are we so... Okay, right. Thank you so much. Musa Abattoir says the nation builder John Mahama has stated categorically that the opaque oil for gold agreement will be thoroughly investigated because the deal doesn't make sense. It's characterized with underhand dealings, and those behind the deal possess questionable character. Now I understand why Akufo-Addo and Bawumia are scared to hand over power to GM, but they are afraid. Because they are afraid of accountability. Alaji from Savlugu says, good morning to you. Suleiman Abdul Rahim says, greetings to you and your very intelligent guest. Thank you so much. Abdul Razak Mahama is doing the watching, and he sent this one, says, good morning, bless. Please extend my greetings to Uncle Kwesi, Mr. Philip Langdon, and Alaji Nusaf Husseini. Please extend my invitation to Mr. Langdon to appear on Alaji and Alaji this Saturday alongside Uncle Kwesi, that we've missed him so much on the show. Thanks. All right. Thank you, Abdul Razak Mahama. If Tijani is watching, that falls under his purview, so I'm sure he'll take the necessary action. Okay, good morning, bless. MPP and NDC have collapsed this country. All right, this one came from William Monday Jekuno. Thank you, William. Patrick Inketia says, good morning, Patrick. I trust you are in fine fettle. Baba Awinkagwa Salifu Ajambore says, we cannot trust Bawumia as president of Ghana. He has already messed up the economy He has already messed up the economy with huge borrowings, but nothing to show. Our economy is wobbling, crawling, and panting for air in the ICU, all under Nanado and Bawumia. We need Mahama to rescue Ghana and Ghanaians. Visionary John and Jane Beba. Regards to Honorable Evans Amuchumesi, incoming MP for Ifija Secretary East, and Professor Grace Ayensu Sikado Ketan constituency. Okay, thank you so much for your message. Please do not call the text lines. It's only meant for messaging, so you can send me a WhatsApp text, or alternatively a normal message. Good morning, blessed. Nanado is a deceptive president who has deceived Ghanaians to the extent of deceiving Jesus that will build a temple for him. We Ghanaians are not what he and his mafias think we are. BB from Accra sent this one. Good morning. It is unpardonable for the EC to have a challenge with simple collation of the total number of registered persons. We are wide awake. The EC, should dare not try to do what they are doing in the 2024 general elections. All right, Buhari from Bukurusun in Tamale Central sent this one. It says, good morning to my former MP, Honorable Yunusaf Husseini. Right, good morning, bless. Living conditions in Ghana is now unbearable. We can't buy fuel, we can't pay light bills, price of foodstuffs in the markets are very high. Who is in charge now? Or we don't have leaders. So there is money to pay all trainee nurses and teachers allowance, and this insensitive government denied them for this long. JDM, come for your stone. Amaldan from Bongo sent this one. Now on that note, I come to Comrade Pratt, who would also share his thoughts with us on this issue.
The sad story is that 67 years after independence, we are importing toothpicks, and we are importing handkerchiefs, and we are importing socks, and we are importing spoons and forks. That's the story. And this is the story that I believe His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is talking about. GIHOC, the Ghana Industrial Holding Corporation, was deliberately set up in order to produce the things that we need. It was part of the import substitution program of the Nkrumah government. We knew right from the very beginning that some of the things that we were going to produce initially may be more expensive than imported ones because of the economics of scale and all the other factors and so on. But we ventured because we wanted to build an independent national economy. We wanted to build a self-reliant national economy. Now, if you hear some of the stories, some of the things that happened after the February 24, 1966 coup, you will weep. You know, the Nkrumah government set up a tannery at Aveyime. And then it established a meat factory in Bolgatanga and established a shoe factory in Kumasi, in the Ashanti region. The whole point was that the meat was to be canned in Bolgatanga. The hide of the animals whose meat was being canned in Bolgatanga was going to be turned into leather at Aveyime. And the leather was going to be used in the Kumasi shoe factory. Brilliant idea. You know what happened? After the coup, the soldiers who overthrew Nkrumah killed the animals and used it for pepper soup. Should I say more? The animals, you know, that were going to use for this integrated industry, they actually killed them and used them for pepper soup. The argument which had been made at that time was that, look, state enterprises are not viable. They are not making profit, and so on. Now, the whole debate about profit was that those people expected us to accumulate monetary profit, to pack money as profit. They didn't think about the dimension of social profit. Excuse me. So they were just counting money. So, look at where we are today. Look at the state of the Ghanaian economy. Look, we used to make refrigerators. We used to make deep freezers. We used to make our own radio and television sets. Not too long ago, we were making vehicles in Ghana. Buafo and Adum. And so on. So when we are complaining about unemployment, why would there not be unemployment when you produce nothing? We used to produce cutlasses, matches. You know, today we import matches. And so on. So this is a huge disaster. And I hope, I just can't hope, I can only hope, that former President John Dramani Mahama will keep his word. And that when he's elected as President of Ghana, we'll begin to look at some of these old projects and so on and see how we can rebuild Ghana again. I just hope that he will keep his word. And politicians have deceived us over the years so many times that now when they talk, you don't even know whether to believe them or not to believe them. That's the tragedy, it's true. So I'm only hoping that former President John Dramani Mahama will keep his word. Keep his word. That's all. You know, as for electoral promises, we've seen plenty. These promises, we've seen plenty of them. And you know the story of the village in England where the politician went to campaign. And he went there and he saw the people and he told them, look, I will give you a bridge if I'm elected. And then some young boy in the crowd looked the politician up and said, but sir, we don't have a river. He said, don't worry, I'll add a river. So election produces all kinds of things. Look, this election campaign, you know one of the things it has produced? A dancing Bawumia. He's dancing for votes. And he doesn't even know how to dance. Masha, let's move on.
All right.
At the time when Gihok was producing televisions, I mean, How many countries would produce televisions in those days?
Yeah.
And the quality of televisions that were being produced in Ghana. These are the things that scared the colonial people. And they decided that, look, this man, we have to get rid of him. That's why they got rid of him.
I grew up knowing about Akasanuma.
Yeah. Akasanuma wireless. Akasanuma television.
Even preset radio.
Akasanuma.
Right. Very, very interesting conversation ongoing here in the studios of Pan African Television, the newspaper review segment of Good Morning Africa. I see you lot are still sending me some more messages. I'll do a few of them before we proceed to our next topic. We have some 23 minutes more. Good morning, blessed. Today is my birthday. I wish myself a glorious happy birthday, Sammy at Adenta. Good, happy birthday to you, Sammy. We wish you the very best for the years ahead. Right. This one here also says, bless. So Dr. Bawumia is not a driver. Is not a driver's mate. After all, since he can issue orders to the finance minister to pay nursing training allowance.
Now he's a dancer. Now he's no longer a driver. Can you see his steps?
Well, right. Those who think the NDC and PP are the same are judging wrongly. A corolla and an articulator are both vehicles but cannot be compared. Elliot from Amasaman sent this one. To some more stories, this one to some more messages, I beg your pardon. JK Gidiglo from Ho. Ghanaians should remember that the vice president who is in charge of the police did not treat the then IGP well. So when he was about to retire, he secretly opened the cell for the dollar to escape. Interesting. The dollar now has now formed a terrorist group with major currencies, comes out secretly to strike and go back to hide. Now they can never be arrested. Mr. Vice President, you know the in and out of the nation. Do something like the way you got it arrested in the first place. Thank you so much for your message. Very interesting message for that matter. Good morning, Bless, and your panelists. I'm Joseph Atambri from Zebila. Our biggest problem as a country is our leaders. We politicize everything, making the economy very difficult to function. Let's face the problem and stop the politics. Good morning. Thank you for your message. At first, I thought Bawumia was a liar, but later realized he's a poor comedian, which he himself has confirmed by promising to pay churches, then later came back to say it was a joke. Sami Aglo from Kokro BT, thank you so much, Sami, for your message. It's a pity that a country like ours is led by a fake lawyer. I can't believe it. So what are the genuine lawyers doing about that? Okay, thank you for your message. Good morning for the good work that Pan-African Television is doing. You didn't tell me your name. Okay, so my name is Kafui Bansa. Thank you, Kafui Bansa, for your message. Please tell Dr. Bawumia we need the 170 solutions he had then in 2016 to stabilize the free fall of the CD and he should stop talking. All right. Thank you so much for your message. Right. I'll do this final one. Good morning, Koku. How can you be going for such a crucial election with a divided front? The current ANC leadership is a failure. The party years ago was very attractive to every SA citizen, but today it is no longer attractive. Meanwhile, I would like to appeal to the media to start demanding for the release of the ad hoc committee report set up to investigate the conspiracy to oust the IGP from office. It is long overdue. Sami Inside Hope sent this one. So away from that, we'll get straight into this one, which says that stop sharing our lands like cake, chiefs to government officials. So Honorable Inusa, once again, we start that conversation for us. Honorable.
So just 2 days ago, I was at a meeting with the Ghana Integrity Initiative. It was corruption in land administration. Clearly, Ghana's land mass is about 230 something thousand square miles, and then the stool, skin lands and family lands about 80%. public lands are about 20%, constitute about 47,000. Public lands include state land and vested lands. Now, so vested lands are those that were vested in the government for and on behalf of the people, like the lands in the northern part of this country. At the time of independence, the government did not believe that the people of the northern regions then and part of Mount Harbour region were sufficiently capable of managing their lands for the benefit of all the citizens of their citizens or subjects. So the government vested those lands in itself to manage on behalf of them. Now the public lands are those that were acquired, that were inherited from the colonialists, that is the colony, and then those that were acquired in pursuance of the relevant laws, and that's by State Lands Act 123, or is it 124, one of them. Now, what has happened, or what is happening presently in Ghana under this administration is shocking. I mean, the level of indiscipline in the land administration, particularly the alienation of public lands, including vested lands, to political cronies and to private interests, is not only alarming, it also defeats the purpose for which the lands were acquired. Now, in most cases, these lands were acquired from chiefs with the promise that the land was going to be used for public purposes. And those public purposes was to benefit all the people of Ghana, and particularly those in the catchment area in which the lands were acquired. Admittedly, some of the lands were not, compensation was not paid for, but some others compensation was paid for. Now, I remember while Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, I chanced upon a report in which President Kufuor, and let me hasten to add, President Kufuor is definitely unlike Akufo-Addo. Definitely unlike Akufo-Addo. Now, President Kufuor knew exactly what he was about. He knew what he was about. Yes, I disagreed with him on policy, but I concede that he knew what he was about. Akufo-Addo simply does not know what he's about. Now, so when the audit of the public lands was done, it was realized that the majority of those lands were not paid for. Compensation was not paid for. And it was gross injustice for the state to take chiefs, lands belonging to chiefs and families without paying compensation. So what Kufuor did then was to return part of the land that was acquired but for which compensation was not paid for to the traditional authorities in lieu. The argument was that having encumbered the land for a long time, the land has appreciated in value. And so even if compensation was to be paid then, the land given them now will compensate, the value of that land will far exceed the compensation that was going to be paid then. And so, and you can cite the return of the land, the Chado lands to the Labadi people and some other lands, the return of part of the lands that were acquired in Kumasi to the Ashanti and all those things. But what is happening today is that I think that the present administration simply doesn't want to see vacant land, which is state land or public land. As we speak, there's no longer any public land in cantonments. As we speak, the rich area has no public land. When they see vacant public land, they alienate same. Now then you ask yourself, so why was, and they alienate it either to themselves or to private interests. So they rob the land of the very character for which it was acquired for public purposes. So you ask yourself, so why was the land acquired in the first place? And then there's a Supreme Court decision. We had taught growing up and reading the law, we had thought that if land was acquired for public purposes and that land was no longer needed for that purpose, the land should return to the original owners. The Supreme Court said no. Having paid compensation, you no longer have the right of first refusal. So the government does whatever it wants with the land, and that is why the Gan chiefs have no land. They have no land. The whole of East Legon was the extension of the airport, and that was public land. Ask the Gan chiefs who sold those lands. Who sold those lands? The government acquired those lands. Professor Kumado has written an article on that. Forgive them their trespasses. The lands were acquired for public purposes. The Gan chiefs were robbed of their inalienable right to that land. And then, when the airport could no longer extend to that area, the land commission officials then prostituted themselves into landowners and started alienating the land. In fact, I just came from Tamale 2 days ago. The spectacle and Comrade Kosi Pratt is a chief of the Tamale traditional area. If he goes to Tamale today, he will recognize it. The market, the Ababu market, has now been parceled out and given to private interests. Market. So you ask yourself, did the government also acquire that market? Or because it's a market, the government exercises control. Or government has the right to alienate vested land. Okay? If you go to the Chogu roundabout, hilltop, the government, this current government, has alienated all the lands up to the Ghana Broadcasting Company and beyond. The only reason why they left the broadcasting standing there is that they can't demolish it. They alienated up to the broadcasting, jumped the broadcasting, and they are continuing towards the sports stadium. If you know, Mr. Philander, if you know Nyohane very well, when I was growing up, the first low-cost bungalows were built around that area. All the low-cost bungalows there have been. I'm not talking about those that Achampong built. I'm talking about those low-cost houses that were abutting the community Nyohane. All of them have been alienated. The residency, where the regional office used to stay, which is a security area, all the land within the outer perimeter of the residency have been alienated and sold. Sold. So, I mean, it's not only the Gan chiefs. Then you ask yourself, so when you look at the Constitution layers administration of land. You have the Regional Lands Commission and the National Lands Commission. So you ask yourself, the Regional Lands Commissions, do they meet in board meetings and approve of the redevelopment or alienation of those lands? Does it come to you as surprising that if those lands alienated, when they are developed, the aesthetics are not there? Because there's no planning. There's no planning. You find somebody building a down house, another person building a 10-story, and there's no planning. Then they don't take the interest of the original owners into consideration. They don't even put in social concerns. I mean, this development, how is it going to, what is in there for the people who were original owners of the land? As for governance issues, forget it. No transparency. How much they are selling the land, into which coffers they are paying the money into, whether those people who bought the land were responding to an advert, or how were the land sold to them? Was it private auction or public auction? No governance issues. Somehow, this present government and people who are managing public lands have arrogated to themselves the power to alienate state lands with impunity. That's what is happening. So the Ghana chiefs are perfectly right. I mean, if you have taken the lands from us and you are alienating the lands, at least factor our interests. We were deprived because we are closer to the sea, and the white man decided that he would set up his headquarters here. We have greatly suffered. But if you have given out the lands, factor our rights. We are also entitled to those lands. Today, go to the Ghana communities. They are like shanty towns because they have no land, so they have been forced to build. You can't construct roads in those communities. And that was what we were discussing 2 days ago. And we had said that, well, maybe it is important going forward to develop a policy on land administration, particularly the alienation of public lands.
Thank you very much. Welcome to Mr. Philip London.
Well, my brother, sometimes I forget that he was one Minister for Lands. Has actually given us a very concise picture of how things have been going. The problem we are talking about now is how, especially in the current situation, people are taking advantage of loopholes in the system, the legal framework, everything, to do the kind of things that are being done. The problems that we've had up to now was also compounded at some point. President Kufuor tried to, as much as possible, try and straighten things out and try and, level things out, but he was not able to succeed fully, although he did quite a bit. And then it has been continuing ever since. But where we are now is terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible. You see, the land itself is not going anywhere. The land within the territorial boundaries of Ghana will remain constant. It's not going anywhere. So when people talk about people stealing land, it's not like somebody goes and sees some land somewhere, he picks it up and he runs away with it. No. The land will forever be there. But when people steal land, they steal the title and rights to the land. So, yes, there's a lot of complaints and a lot of worry about stealing of land. And the stealing of land is the one that we can see. The one that we can see. Some of the areas in Tambale you made reference to just now, that it's now become apparent have been stolen. Some of them were stolen long ago. It's now that you are seeing it. As we speak, lands are being stolen to the extent that even when you are standing somewhere, you have to be careful that where you are standing it doesn't be stolen already. Things are that bad. A late aunt of mine and her husband, my uncle, had their property at airport. They lived in that house for over 50 years. Over 50 years. They passed. The property becomes property of their children. They are thinking what to do with the property. Unfortunately, their siblings would not be on the same page as to the way forward. One day they are there, somebody comes and demolishes the house. He says, I bought this house how many years ago? How possible? They take this matter to the highest authorities and they realize that the people doing this thing have authority, higher authority backing them. That is where we are today. That is where we are. Where people can, maneuver, play games, and steal your own land right under your nose. What if they tell you something? Look, we are prepared to give you this, get it and go away. They have stolen, they've taken it from you. Demolish the house in which you were sleeping. You were woken by bulldozers, demolishing your structure. This is where we've got to. And it is a very, 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 very terrible development. Yes, some of the Guard chiefs are being told they sold the land, etc. But of course, like my brother is saying, there should be considerations given to them too. Some of these considerations in managing the situation helps to lower political temperature. It fosters goodwill and peace, and but when people feel that, look, whether you like it or not, I have the authority, I have the power, I have quote unquote the law on my side, you create unnecessary and terrible tensions. A volcano, when it's there, you see standing there coolly. Maybe there's even a cloud passing on top quiet. The day it erupts, you'll be sorry. That's the kind of situation we are in now. And these things are going on. People are complaining, people are speaking. But it is like total indifference. There is no public even response to indicate that, look, these concerns that you have, we have taken them on board, we are looking at it. Some engagements for people to know that, look, you don't worry, we are tackling your issues. No, nothing of the sort. We've gone ahead, we are going ahead, we are doing it, and you can't stop us. This is terrible. It's not the best. We are creating problems for ourselves. And everybody is complaining. Everybody is complaining. People go and buy land, and they are scared because they're not sure whether they're okay. They have paid for, they've got documentation, but still they feel insecure. And some of these things took its rise from the days of the revolution. It took its rise from the days of the revolution, where property was taken over and guarded. Hence the incidence of land guards. And this is something that has disturbed our land administration for a long time. And unfortunately, while at some point we try to address it, we've gone all kinds of ways, we've gone digital, so many programs and processes have been put in place to try and arrest this thing and put it at an end. But people have deliberately tried to take advantage, to perpetuate the situation so that they can take advantage of it. So the situation is still there.
Right.
So it is a terrible thing that is happening. And like I always say, it boils down to leadership. Leadership must be determined to say, look, we recognize that this is a problem. Engage the stakeholders. How are we going to resolve this issue once and for all? And then we all go ahead and solve it.
Right.
That's the only way out.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Philip Lally. Mr. Pratt.
Well, land administration in Ghana now is in a very chaotic state. Extremely chaotic state. And it's been reduced to just a war of gangsters. One gangster goes there, he takes the land, another gangster comes with his guns, drives him off, and so on. Recently, we saw what happened in the Kaswa area where the soldier was killed and so on. It's common everywhere, total chaos. And I worry a lot, and I worry a lot about government lands, which are being appropriated or misappropriated by private interest. And I like to use the example of the Ridge Hospital. See the Ridge Hospital. There's so many bungalows around the Ridge Hospital which were reserved for medical personnel. So the doctors will stay close to the hospital. So that if there's a national disaster or emergency, the doctor can even just walk to the hospital and deal with the emergency. We have taken over all of those lands around the Ridge Hospital and sold them or allow people to steal them and so on. To the extent that today, you can find a doctor in the Ridge Hospital who will be needed in a state of emergency staying at Kaswa. So if you're in a state of emergency and the doctor has to come from Kaswa to the Ridge Hospital to carry out his duty, can you imagine?
By the time he's coming, the road will be flooded.
Yes, the road will be flooded, or traffic or something. And people are going to die. You see, the public and civil service, it had an enclave, around the ministry area and so on. And there were bungalows in Osu and Ridge and so on, where the principal secretaries, all of them were. Today, I'm sure you can find a chief director at the ministry who stays at Nsawam. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Land use doesn't make sense. Then you can add Galamsey and the extent to which it's devastating the land. Cocoa production has fallen by almost 50%. Why? Land use, land management. So look, until we do something about land ownership and management in this country, we are doomed. That's all I have to say.
Right, thank you very much, Thank you, Honorable Yunus Husseini. Thank you, Mr. Philip Landing. Our time is up. I want to thank our cherished viewers for their time this morning as well. It's been a very insightful conversation here on the show as usual. Our Thursday edition of Good Morning Africa is always very, very insightful. I want to thank you so much for your time. I'll see you again tomorrow. Do have a pleasant day. Bye-bye.